Not green.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, blue.
Yeah.
Go with blue.
Blue.
But lights trip me out.
Had to illuminate the studio a little bit.
Yeah.
The library.
Brighten it up. We'll just kind of like start because I'm tripping. Let me get a sip of coffee. Yeah, dude, the green floor. Pretty green.
Pretty green.
I gotta wake up, man. But yeah, dude. So I would say that you and I are both fans of comedy to a degree,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, like we like Netflix specials and
Yeah.
podcasts and all that fun stuff.
A good comedy movie doesn't hurt anybody.
Oh, dude, comedy movies are my favorite type of movie.
Yeah.
I would say hands down.
Sitting down with a couple of friends watching just, like an actual, not just some like run-of-the-mill comedy movie, but something that's like,
A butt guster.
yeah. Guy, it's the best feeling in the world.
That's one of the top forms of entertainment. And I was thinking, what makes comedy funny? And what makes comedians funny?
That's a good question. A little bit more of a, like the one you really got to think about. It's not like such a simple answer.
Yeah.
But I'd say what kind of makes comedy funny is like, well, okay. Well, let me back it up a little bit. We'll go back to Mr. Billy Shakespeare. Comedy, tragedy. It's two sides of the same coin.
Okay.
Can't have comedy without tragedy. You can't have tragedy without comedy.
Okay.
So I think what makes comedy or what makes things funny, not just comedy in general, just what makes things funny, is because the world sucks. And then there's tragedy all around us. So you got to find what's with the little glimmer of hope, but you got to bring some levity to it. You don't want your glimmer of hope to be serious. If you know what I mean? You want to be like, yeah, this is pretty cool, something that makes you smile. And that's where comedy comes in. If everything's a utopia, comedy's gone. That's the one genre we will never have in a utopia. You can't have comedy. If everything is perfect, what's to joke about? I mean, you could joke about like things that were still in the past, like things that are always going to be free game, like Nazis. You can always joke about Nazis. No one's going to care. Or the Canadians. They're too nice to give a shit.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But if there's just no tragedy in the world, then there's nothing to be made fun of, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think that was truly just a fantastic answer. Like that was a really good answer. I thought we were gonna be stumbling around like I usually do, but you really hit it on the head right there. Because you're right, comedy is like a pressure release, and if everything is like you're saying absolutely perfect, then there is nothing to point fun at, right? There's no pressure to release. You're just kind of hitting a
I will
vibe.
say, I mean, I guess you could, if you like wanted to, you could make fun of the fact that everything's great, but it just wouldn't be as good as if things were a little messed up. Like you would only have a ceiling that you could hit to if everything's in the utopia. You could still make jokes about it. You could be like, hey, things are so great. Like, I don't know where my blah blah is. Like, I got all these robots around here. I don't know how to wipe my ass anymore. But like that's all you can do. It's just like things are so great. I don't know how to do this anymore. Like that's basically the only bit you got.
Yeah. So comedy is about bringing a light to the context of things. Yeah. Is that what it?
Yeah. I 100% agree with that.
Okay.
And also, I don't know. Comedy is just. I also think comedy is almost immortal in a way, because we've always had comedians. If you think about it. I mean, also we've never been in a state in our world where we've truly had a utopia. At least I don't consider any part of human history a true utopia. But like court jesters and the town fools or whatever you would want to call them, those are essentially the comedians of the day.
Yeah.
Back then, and that's pretty much going all the way back to almost ancient Greece and everything. They had people who were considered. I mean, it was a different term. I don't know what exactly term they used, but I do know that they actually had people that were like jesters or like the life of the party type people. You know, the people that was going to make everybody laugh and have a joyous time. And it's essentially what a comedian is.
Yeah.
I mean, you're trying to bring joy and laughs and smiles to somebody's life.
Right. So it's just it's bringing that joy in. You're right. I think that's like we all need that person or that comedian to kind of bring our hopes up. So it makes sense from an evolutionary point of like even probably before there was a civilization. There's probably the silly person in the group that, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Someone that just needed to lift everybody's spirits up a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, hey man, you're like, I know you're about to be sacrificed, but like, look at all the great you're gonna bring to us. Like, I'm gonna get my crops. Susan's getting her crops. Little George is gonna go off to college. We're gonna do fine, man. Also, I kind of feel like comedy's needed.
It's definitely needed within our time. Well, I guess all time, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess like I once said, if you're in a utopia, then you don't really need comedy because everything's great. But like, as long as there's something that you just don't like about the world, or just something that sucks about the world, there's always going to be comedy. There's always needs somebody to make jokes about that. Whether you want to take offense to it or not, someone needs to make jokes about it. Because if you don't, then you just kind of let that thing fester, and then it becomes the thing that nobody can touch.
Wow.
Because if you don't make jokes about things, and also, if you don't make jokes about people, they get too big of an ego.
Yeah.
You've got. I mean, I'm not saying like go in there and like roast a motherfucker, but like how we are with each other when we're off camera, we bust each other's balls.
Absolutely.
And you need to go around. You need to bust more people's balls. You need to keep people to know that it's just like, oh, I'm not better than you. We're just a bunch of jackasses.
Yeah. Dude, that's a really good point. I never thought about it from that angle. It kind of equalizes things.
Yeah.
It equalizes things and brings more joy.
Yeah.
To those connections.
If I can joke about something about you, and then you can joke about something about me, I feel much more equal with you as a human being. I don't feel as like, oh, well, like if I joke about something that you may be insecure about, and then you just blast me, I'll be like, well, dude, damn, like, I'm sorry, but that was a little mean. Yeah, and then I wouldn't want to be around you as much, or want to talk to you, or even want to like you. But if we both can be in a mutual ball busting agreement, I'm like, that's a cool guy.
Right. Yeah. It makes things considerably more fun.
Yeah, comedy brings people together, and 100% honesty. It's a good way to interact with another person in a way that's not necessarily. I mean, it can be depending on your definition of comedy, but it's not something that's innately going to push people away.
Yeah. You have to have like a really bad sense of humor in the way you deliver something.
Yeah,
you're attacking someone.
Your go-to jokes are like dead baby jokes type thing. Like if that's your go-to joke, then take a step back.
Yeah.
Reevaluate. There's plenty of joke websites and apps you can go onto to hone your craft.
What you said earlier is such an important point. I know it's a talking point amongst a lot of people in the comedy world right now. Like if you can't talk about something or poke fun at something in some degree, then it does become untouchable, and then it becomes more and more so an issue. Yeah. Right? Like the only way that we can navigate things and make things better is to actively discuss them. And if you can do it in a humorous way, I mean, that's like icing on the cake there. Right?
Yeah, I mean, every type of person on this planet, every group you want to consider yourself and associate with, there is something to make fun of. Yeah. I don't care where you live, what your culture is, what you believe in, what you aspire to be, or what you just do with your day-to-day lives. There's something to make fun of you about. And you need that in your life. You don't need to go around just thinking that you're better than somebody else or everybody and there's nothing wrong with you because no one's had necessarily the guts to come up and like mess with you like that. And I know people like that who don't just on a day-to-day don't have the camaraderie with their friends or with other people like we do, and so they're just much more egotistical, much more of a nuisance, and just all-around dick to be around.
Yep, I know.
People who have no sense of humor just suck.
Yeah. So why do you think people get too serious?
That might be like a. I don't think that's a nature thing. I think that might be a nurture thing. I think that really comes to how your parents coddled you as a child.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, if you were very
if
you were very babied and protected as a kid, then like there's a lot of things that you might view with a different perspective and like not think it's funny because you're sheltered from the world.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who is just like let rampant and just like, go do what you want to do, don't die, be back here by 8:00. You know, they probably have much more. Like, I mean, think about it. Some of the best comedians, some of the best stand-up comics are people who have terrible households that they come from.
Yeah.
Like, whether it been abusive parents or just a single-parent home or, like, siblings were assholes to them or, you know, anything. Some of the best comedians had terrible childhoods.
Yeah.
And I think if you're too overprotected, those are the people who don't have a sense of humor and don't understand what it means to poke fun at something, but not being actually offensive about it. Like, because there is a fine line of joking and being offensive. I understand that. And some people do like to cross that a little too much, but there's also a fine line of knowing what. I mean, there's a fine line of knowing what is offensive and what's not offensive, and people need to understand that there's comedy in everything.
Yeah.
Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. It's one of the hidden energies of the world.
Oh, wow. Dude, just great points. Great points. Mind-blowing all around.
I got X-ray vision, and I am seeing the gears that you had. They were turning hard, and they've stopped now.
Yeah. Dude, that's such a good point of, like, the overprotected situation and that kind of being the limit on like how you would perceive the world, and then that would alter your interactions with people and get you on that more serious path.
I mean, especially if you're not experienced to things, then you don't. That's just something that you can't add to your own experiences. Like, and that doesn't just include like things out in the real world. That includes entertainment stuff. Like, I know people whose parents wouldn't let them watch Harry Potter because it promotes Satan, which it doesn't.
That's aggressive.
So it's like, you know, because it's witchcraft and wizardry and all that, it's like. So we were just talking about Harry Potter and how I know people that don't let their kids watch it because of witchcraft and all that kind of jazz. And I think we might have pissed off a wizard out there because somebody turned off our camera.
Yep.
So sorry about this awkward jump cut of an edit. We had a dead battery. Had to charge it up. But yeah, so we were talking about how people, if you get too sheltered from your everyday surroundings, whether it be your entertainment or the real world, that can really hamper like what you view the world as comedy.
Yeah. And dude, you bring up that point I resonate with so much because to a large degree that was my childhood. Like, my parents are definitely the people who are way on the overprotective end. Like, you're not playing Call of Duty till you're out of our house kind of level.
I was kind of like that with like M-rated games for a while. Because I do remember, like, my dad had bought me a PS2 from cause my dad was military, so he bought one from like a guy on base. And he got all the games with it. Yeah. And, you know, all the M-rated games. And this was when I was like 12, 13 at the time. Well, not a PS2. I would have been younger for that. Maybe this was when he got me the Xbox. So I was a little bit older when he got me a original Xbox. But she took away like Halo and Grand Theft Auto and all that away from me. And I was, you know, that's 13. That's not like too out of the norm for a 13-year-old to be playing like some M-rated games. Actually, I don't even remember if Halo was M-rated or not, but she wouldn't let me play it.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I do understand where you're coming from with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and like
luckily it didn't hamper us too much.
No, we escaped.
Yeah.
We beat it. But I can see that dynamic within myself, and I guess I can see it in other people. Yeah. Like, I have that tendency to get too serious under stress, and I think it partially does come back from that sheltered perspective, and then having dynamics outside of that. And you know, with comedy and people finding, you know, some things funny and some things not funny.
Yeah.
Do you think that like everybody has their comedic taste because the aspects of which they're just not exposed, or like, you know how there's a lot of political there's a lot of political divide within comedy right now. Do you think it's because people aren't just like exposed to the other side, and like that's why they don't find certain things funny when it comes back to them?
Yeah, I definitely think that you got to be exposed to it in order to actually make a joke about it. Because if you don't know what you're talking about and you just make a joke about something, that's where I think a lot of people get in trouble with. They don't know what they're joking about, and so when they make a joke, it doesn't stick the landing because they don't know what they're talking about. And then it just kind of comes off offensive or mean-spirited or something like that. So I think actually being knowledgeable in what you're making fun of is smart.
Yeah.
And it also
Yeah,
goes to
it's a
show
good
that you're not
prerequisite.
like being a dick about the people, person, or thing you're making fun of, because you're actually researching and you're learning about it. I mean, Grant, yes, you are learning about it to make fun of it, but you're still learning about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not just making half-assed jokes that you pull off the top of your head just because you want to be funny. I mean, some of the best comedians, they actually research their jokes and then go out there and try them until they perfect it.
Yeah.
It's not just going out there and be like, "Here's my joke." That's not what they do.
Yeah, there's definitely a science to that art. So, yeah, I think the protection thing is interesting towards seriousness and like. So what do you think really guides someone's sense of humor? Like what makes something particularly funny for certain people?
I think this is purely my opinion and subjective take, but I think if you undergo something that is traumatic, that's a good way to find comedy in it.
Yeah. I agree with that.
I mean, some cases it can be very different. I mean, you could develop like PTSD from it instead of finding the funny in it. I mean, there's definitely the opposite for both.
I feel like there's got to be some space between.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I definitely think that experiencing something that's bad, like actually being in a car crash, can make some car crashes kind of funny. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I've been in a car crash, and then I see some people get like, I'm not talking about
Been
like
in
a
a
car
couple.
crash where people die, but like someone where just gets like rear-ended. It's funny. It's happened to me. I understand it. It sucks. You get pissed, but seeing it happen to somebody else is fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
So things like that. Like you don't want to take something that's so tragic that it is a tragedy, but just something that is a tragedy in your own life that's not an actual.
So what makes it funny is like it's relatable. Like you have some
Yes.
kind of tied experience to it.
It's like
Otherwise,
I've experienced it, now you get to experience it. Ha ha ha. We're one and the same now.
Yeah.
That's where I'm kind of going with it.
Okay.
I think that's a big part of what comedy is. So you actually have to experience it.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely vibe with that idea. So on the other hand, and I guess this kind of goes hand in hand with seriousness, but what do you think on the other side causes people to be triggered about comedy and really not like it? Because, like, for example, the car wreck scenario.
Yeah.
You could have some people, maybe two people both have been in a car wreck, and one person finds it, like, funny, and then the other person gets triggered.
See, I don't know. I mean, that might what brings in the nature part. Like, just how are you hardwired? Because, I mean, there's just obviously everybody's different. So, I mean, there's no guarantee that even though we've had same or similar circumstances happen to us in life, that we might still think the same thing is funny. So
Yeah.
I think that's just kind of comes into where how you're just hardwired. A little bit of how you were coddled as a child and just how you kind of already are.
I like the word coddled. It's funny. But
Because there's some things that I've experienced this in my own life where I've made a joke with somebody where I totally thought they were going to think it was hilarious and they just took it the wrong way. And it's like, but dude, like, what I just made a joke about is kind of like something that, that you can relate to in a way. I didn't think you'd take it that serious to it, but like, it's something I thought we could joke about.
yeah.
But you're taking it way too serious, and I wasn't expecting that.
Dude, isn't that like the highest risk reward thing? You put yourself out there with a joke, and then it doesn't
Especially if
land.
you're trying to use that joke on a girl.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to pick up a girl, and you use a joke, and it just doesn't land. Oh, that's brutal.
That hurts.
That one's brutal. Because now they're just going to look at you as the weird guy.
Yeah. I remember I showed a girl the Hodge twins whenever I thought that was funny.
Oh, God.
That did not go well.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Did not go well.
God, Nah, we'll save that for another one. I'm not going to get into that. Yeah, I think your nature and nurture, obviously, like you're crossing into both as what causes your sense of humor, I believe. Like your overlap of how you just were born and what you've been experienced. It definitely plays into people's sense of humor. And, I mean, also not just like how you're raised, but just surroundings as well, like your actual environment. Like if you're in a country that's, imperialist or dictatorship, there's probably not a lot to joke about.
There's a lot to joke about, but you can't do it.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't joke, so therefore you necessarily can't have a sense of humor in a way if you're not allowed to joke about things.
Yeah.
So your environment can play a heavy part into it as well, depending on where in the world you're born. Because America, I would say America is like the most open for comedy. Even though we're big on the whole cancel culture BS, you can't joke like you can in America in other countries. Just impossible.
Agreed. You forget that freedom.
Yeah.
It's a cultural freedom, and that I just like how all our other freedoms allow us to evolve. Having that cultural freedom of comedy allows us to evolve socially faster. Like a country that's black and gray and communist or fascist, whatever, like hierarchy system, they have far less culture, right?
Yeah, you need to be open-ended. I think. I don't think my life would be the same without comedy. Like, not in the sense that obviously there'd still be would be funny things, but if just comedy as a genre wasn't the thing, like there wasn't stand-up, or they didn't really make funny movies like that, my life would be drastically different.
Wow. I never thought of what my life would be like if there's no comedy. Like even in dramatic movies or dramatic things, like there's always the comedic character or something. Like even if that was eliminated, like there's nothing.
If that was gone, this would be a terrible world to live in.
Yes. It'd be brutal.
Yeah. Can't find the levity in things and just sit back and joke.
Yeah. That because at that point, like there's a good like you're saying, there's good to be a balance. Like you need tragedy to understand comedy. But if everything is pure tragedy, it's just a feedback loop of despair that just keeps on going.
That's not good. And that's what leads to dark thoughts.
Yeah, it's dark arts right there, man.
Do you think that comedy is, in today's day and age, the number one form of the First Amendment? Free speech? Because I think it is, in the sense that, like, it's your job to just go up there and talk. Like, you have, and not and there are other jobs where you just go up there and talk, like a motivational speaker, or like someone who's like a businessman, kind of like what Jordan Belfort wound up doing, where he was kind of like a salesman, like helping people get into business type thing as a spokesman. So there are jobs like that, but like comedy is a job of opinion. And opinion is what free speech is. Free speech is not just stating facts. Everybody can state facts. That's the point of facts. But opinion is what free speech is. And I think comedy is the ultimate form of the First Amendment in today's day and age.
So
do you disagree?
I almost don't know how I would rank the form relative towards the First Amendment. I think that comedy is one of the most important dialogues. It's one of the most important components of our collective dialogue right now, because I think effectively what's happening is essentially everybody's had strong opinions, whether it's social, political, whatever, and that's always been a thing. But since the advent of social media, now you can post stuff and everybody's getting to know everybody else's ideas, that's triggering people because it wasn't so obvious in the past.
That is true.
So
if you had a weird fetish or a kink or something, nobody knew. Now they got fucking subreddits for it.
Yeah. like the collective, our collective mind is being expressed through the internet now, and in doing so, we are learning. There's a lot of good and a lot of bad that comes out of it, and we're essentially further understanding ourselves a lot faster because those taboo topics or strong opinions are being expressed, and then you have like these moralist people on the one side who are trying to cancel all these people, and then they're going back and forth. But anyway, so I think there is a radical. So I think right now it's kind of like a radical expression of the First Amendment that people are expressing themselves, and comedy is a driving force in trying to balance that and try to bring some kind of positive or uplift as we explore that collective thought.
Okay, I like that. That's a very good conclusion with bringing in the aspect of social media, because social media, I do think, probably has hampered what we can view as funny and has accentuated or accelerated cancel culture. I do agree with that, with that aspect of what you're saying. Yeah, I think comedy is like the best genre in the sense that everybody kind of needs it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need action movies, you don't need dramas, you don't need romance movies, but I feel like the world genuinely needs comedy.
Yeah. It's like I think within every field, expertise, it doesn't matter what it is, it's like there's that note of excellence, and also there's like hope tied to it, right? There's just that immensely positive force, and within the social cultural domain, comedy is that expression for us, that is that positive hope beam that's like driving everything up.
Yeah. Yeah. I like this question a lot. This one I think out of so far, this one's probably the one I thought the most about.
Yeah. Like this definitely went deeper than what I thought. Just kind of really the context of what comedy's doing for all of us, and just kind of.
Because when you really when you start diving into comedy, what it is, what it means to you and others, it's one of the most important things that we have that keep us together as a society.
Yeah, it's because without comedy, socially we would start breaking down socially because we become more hostile.
Yes.
And then culturally, we would start breaking down, and then systems start breaking down, and then it's like, how are you going to drive order? You better have some black and gray monarchy going on, because.
Speaking of that, I'm like, comedy is the thing that is literally driving the American government right now. Is because the entire American government is so funny, it's a joke. It is what's keeping it going. Comedy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's.
That's a hot take.
It's a good point. It's such a strange time, politically and socially.
Without comedy, it would be so much worse.
Yeah, without comedy, it would be rough going for sure.
So, the original question that you asked was, what makes comedy funny? And I think we should just slightly retweak it and just say, what makes comedy?
Yeah.
Because adding that funny in there is slightly redundant, but...
Yes, yeah, it is.
But what makes comedy? That was a great question.
What makes comedy? And I think we have a pretty good conclusion, right?
Yeah.
It's about pressure release that brings joy to people and further, enlightens our social connections.
Yeah, and finding your slimmer of hope within your own tragedy.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
So there's a silver lining right there.
Oh, buddy, I feel smarter.
That was cathartic, man. That was great. All right. I think that'll do it.
Yeah, thank you all for joining. See you next time.
Adios.